Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight: investigations continue in Switzerland after a fire killed at least 40 people on New Year's Eve. Prosecutors now say they know what likely caused the tragedy. Arian Pazdar is near the Swiss border. President Trump with a warning for Iranian leaders, what he's saying about the demonstrations and the Iranian people. Plus, China's military drills around Taiwan sparking fresh concerns and tensions. How the U.S. is now pushing back. Mario Tzu at the White House. Protests in Iran continue over the country's collapsing currency. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia strikes targets in Yemen belonging to forces backed by the United Arab Emirates. Jason Perry with a Middle East update. The Maduro regime signals it's open to negotiating with the Trump administration while also ramping up the detention of U.S. citizens in Venezuela. Luis Martinez has the update. The Small Business Administration suspends nearly 7,000 Minnesota borrowers after flagging almost $400 million in suspected pandemic loan fraud. Jason Blair reports.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City. Here's Tiffany Meyer.
Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. Prosecutors in Switzerland say sparklers likely caused the fire that left at least 40 people dead on New Year's Eve. Many of the victims are foreigners. Americans were in the alpine town as well, but it's not yet clear whether any are among the victims. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar is near the Swiss border with more details and a warning. This report includes footage that some viewers may find disturbing.
People from all over the globe were in Switzerland celebrating when a deadly fire broke out on New Year's Eve. We now have more information on the possible cause of the fire, and investigators are ruling out the possibility of an attack. Rescue aircraft continue flying to and from the Swiss alpine town Crans-Montana on Friday, as many victims still have to be identified. At least 40 people are dead, although some unconfirmed reports say the number is actually closer to 50. The venue where the fire broke out is located in a basement. People panicked as they tried to run up the stairs and exit the building. Two women told a French broadcaster that they saw what caused the fire. According to them, a male bartender lifted a female colleague on his shoulders as she held a champagne bottle with a sparkler in it. Swiss prosecutors also say that sparklers likely started the fire after being held too close to the ceiling, which was lined with foam for soundproofing. A survivor of the New Year's tragedy recounts the moment when she might have lost her friend.
We saw the fire and we went straight back up. I grabbed my friend's arm, but then I climbed the stairs and I let go. Now he's not answering me anymore.
An American student on vacation says he could have been a victim if he had made a different decision on New Year's Eve.
It's so close to us that we might have gone there even though we didn't go there. There was a significant chance that we ended up dead because we decided to go party.
Swiss officials say the blaze most likely triggered the release of gases. Those gases then rapidly ignited and caused what firefighters call a flashover or a backdraft. A fire security expert says the tragedy could have been prevented if norms and regulations were followed properly.
It's always the accumulation of having a lot of people who do not necessarily know the site well, who might have consumed alcohol, and then, voila, you have an incident.
He says the ceiling foam might count as a highly flammable material, which goes against regulations, as well as having sparklers near such a material. Local officials say they didn't know about the situation at the bar before the tragedy happened.
The Cantonal Fire Service has never received a report of defects or non-compliance in this building.
Another issue is identifying the victims. A doctor at the local hospital says it's difficult for multiple reasons. Partly because it was a public event, so investigators don't know who went there, how many people exactly there were, and even if they had identification on them, the papers most likely burned. So for now, investigations and identifications will continue in Switzerland. Arian Pazdar, NTD News.
Tensions rising between the U.S. and Iran. President Trump now issuing a new warning to Tehran as protests against the Iranian regime reportedly turned deadly. We now go live to NTD's Washington correspondent Mari Otsu at the North Lawn of the White House. Mari, good evening.
Tiff, good evening. Yes, and those protests have been growing throughout the week, with 7 now reportedly having been killed. And merchants, shop owners, and students are protesting runaway inflation and a currency that's lost 40% of its value since Israel launched the 12-day war over the summer, supported by American Tomahawk missiles, stealth fighter jets, and those American B-2 bombers. And as you mentioned, President Trump is issuing a strong warning to Iran, saying that if Iran kills its peaceful protesters, that the U.S. will come to their rescue. He says, quote, "We are locked and loaded and ready to go." And here's President Trump earlier this week responding to a reporter asking if he'd support overthrow of the Iranian regime. Take a look.
I'm not going to talk about overthrow of a regime. They've got a lot of problems that are in. They have tremendous inflation. Their economy is bust. Their economy is no good. And I know that people aren't so happy, but don't forget, every time they have a riot or somebody forms a group, little or big, they start shooting people. Now I hear that Iran is trying to build up again, and if they are, we're going to have to knock them down. We'll knock them down. We'll knock the hell out of them, but hopefully that's not happening.
And Iranian officials are now responding to President Trump's statement, issuing a stern warning against U.S. intervention. Iran's national security chief saying on X that American interference would trigger, quote, disruption across the entire region and destruction of American interests. Tiff.
A lot to look out for there for sure. Meanwhile, Mari, on Monday and Tuesday, Beijing mobilized its Army, Navy, air, and rocket units for military drills around Taiwan. The U.S. State Department now responding. What is the latest on that?
That's right, Tiff. And this is the second largest number of fighter jets deployed by the CCP. That's 130 warplanes and 22 ships, according to Taiwan's defense ministry. And the U.S. State Department condemning the CCP military exercises, saying that they increase tensions unnecessarily and instead, quote, that they urge Beijing to exercise restraint, cease its military pressure against Taiwan, and engage in meaningful dialogue. And this is all coming as CCP leader Xi Jinping doubled down, vowing to reunify China and Taiwan in his annual New Year's Eve speech in Beijing. But President Trump has said that Xi Jinping would not invade Taiwan during Trump's presidency. Take a look.
I know you have said that Xi Jinping wouldn't dare move militarily on Taiwan while you're in office. But what if he does? Would you order U.S. forces to defend Taiwan?
You'll find out if it happens. And he understands the answer to that. They understand what's going to happen. And he has openly said, and his people have openly said at meetings, we would never do anything while President Trump is president, because they know the consequences.
And the drills are coming just days after Washington approved a record $11 billion arms deal with Taiwan, with President Trump set tonight to meet shortly with a U.S. ambassador to China, David Perdue, at his Mar-a-Lago estate. And meanwhile, President Trump has been staying busy in Palm Beach, signing an order today blocking a 2024 deal in which an American chips company, MCOR, sold its specialized chips business to HIFO, which is a U.S. registered firm controlled by a Chinese citizen. The order cites national security risks, retroactively prohibiting the transaction, and requires HIFO to divest the assets within 6 months. And sale of those assets must be approved by the U.S. government with preference for buyers without ties to China. This move is just underscoring further efforts by the Trump administration to prevent critical semiconductor technology from falling into the hands of those that they believe could threaten national security risks. Tiff, back to you.
All right, Mari, thanks for those updates. Protests continue in Iran as residents try to deal with the country's collapsing currency. In another development, Saudi Arabian fighter jets launched strikes in Yemen on targets belonging to groups backed by the United Arab Emirates. NTD's Jason Perry has the Middle East update.
Recently released video shows protesters in Iran cheering as fires burn near an Iranian police station. Protesters have hit the streets in Iran in recent days due to a sharp decline in the value of Iranian currency, and protests have been spreading throughout the country. Western sanctions and Israeli and U.S. airstrikes in June have impacted the Iranian economy. This video shows police clashing with protesters outside what appears to be a shopping center. And another video shows protesters pulling down the gate of a police station. And Iran International English shared this video on X of police attempting to disperse the crowds with tear gas. However, one of the protesters is seen sitting in the middle of the street in front of the police in an apparent standoff. Some people have compared the man to another demonstrator known as Tank Man, who stood in front of Chinese tanks during the Tiananmen Square protest in 1989. Official sources inside China say the Chinese Communist Party killed over 10,000 people during those protests. And in Iran, there have already been reports that several people have been killed during demonstrations, although the numbers have not been verified. President Trump issued a warning to Iran on Truth Social Friday, saying that if Iran shoots and kills peaceful protesters, then, quote, the United States of America will come to their rescue. One resident in Tehran reacted to Trump's warning about the situation.
This has nothing to do with them. It is an internal issue. We don't interfere in their issues. He wants to dictate terms to us from the other side of the world. When it comes to our country, we won't just chat slogans. We will defend ourselves.
And according to Iran's state-run media, the senior advisor to Iran's supreme leader said that U.S. interference in the protest would lead to chaos across the region. Meanwhile, in another development, Saudi Arabia launched airstrikes this week against the forces of a separatist organization in Yemen called the Southern Transitional Council, or STC. The group has taken control of parts of southern Yemen, and Saudi Arabia said that Saudi-backed forces have launched an operation to take over military camps from southern separatist authorities that are backed by the United Arab Emirates. Yemen borders southern Saudi Arabia, which said the new operations are to ensure that the military camps in Yemen will not be used to threaten the security of the people in the region. Jason Perry, NTD News.
As tensions rise in the Indo-Pacific, the U.S. is stepping up efforts to deter China from moving on Taiwan, from record arms sales to new laws and economic pressure. Washington is signaling stronger support for the self-ruled island. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has more.
In the face of mounting threats from the Chinese Communist Party and its stated goal of taking over Taiwan by next year, the U.S. is taking steps to protect the small democratic island. And the stakes are high. Experts warn that if China were to seize Taiwan, it could upend global supply chains, dramatically impact Americans' way of life, and trigger a worldwide economic crisis.
Conflict in the Western Pacific over the Taiwan question would result in a 25% GDP contraction in Asia and a knock-on effect of 10 to 12% GDP reduction in the United States of America.
And if Taiwan goes under, then America's finished as a power in Asia, and no country on earth that thinks it has a sort of a promise, explicit or implicit, that the Americans will defend them is going to have much confidence in U.S. capability to keep them free.
To deter a takeover, the U.S. has taken several bold actions. In December, Washington approved its largest ever weapons package to Taiwan, a record $11.1 billion in arms. The sale includes rocket launchers, anti-tank missiles, armed drones, and other advanced systems. Soon after, China launched large-scale military drills encircling the island, far more extensive than any previous exercises we've seen in recent times. Top U.S. military leaders say that China is actively preparing for a possible invasion.
China's increasingly aggressive actions near Taiwan are not just exercises, they are rehearsals.
The Trump administration has also released its national security strategy last month, emphasizing that the need to maintain military overmatch against China is critical. President Trump signed the Taiwan Assurance Implementation Act last month as well, requiring the State Department to regularly review and update its guidelines for engagement with Taiwan. That move is seen as strengthening ties between Washington and Taipei. Support for defending Taiwan also extends across party lines. In December, Congress passed the National Defense Authorization Act, increasing funding for Taiwan's defense and expanding coordination with regional partners in the event of an invasion. Now, the NDAA also includes broader measures aimed at countering the CCP. Those provisions restrict U.S. investment in Chinese military-linked companies, protect Americans' genetic data from CCP-controlled firms, and ban Chinese-made technology from Pentagon supply chains. Economically, the Trump administration has also increased pressure on China through tariffs, though now totaling 47.5% on Chinese goods. Cabinet officials say that those tariffs, along with other economic measures, are part of a broader strategy to reduce U.S. dependence on China. Reporting by Jack Bradley, NTD News.
Amid increased U.S. pressure, the Venezuelan regime of Nicolas Maduro signals it is willing to negotiate with the Trump administration. NTD's Luis Martinez brings us the details.
After more than 3 months of U.S. strikes on narco vessels, the seizure of a sanctioned oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, and the first confirmed land strike on Venezuelan soil, the Maduro regime has signaled it is willing to negotiate with the Trump administration.
The U.S. government knows, because we've told many of their spokespeople, that if they want to seriously discuss an agreement to combat drug trafficking, we're ready. If they want oil, Venezuela is ready for U.S. investment, like with Chevron, whenever they want it, wherever they want it, and however they want it.
Russia and China continue to assist the Venezuelan regime. This week, a sanctioned oil tanker being pursued by the U.S. military suddenly appeared in the Russian ship registry, and 2 Chinese oil tankers are now en route to Venezuela due to arrive mid-January despite the blockade.
We have not taken the bait from those provocations from the imperialism. We will keep doing what we have to do every day. We are doing things we had never done before. There is a large group of scientists improving our high-technology equipment, aerial, land-based, air defense.
The U.S. has continued to increase its military presence in the Caribbean after the Trump administration confirmed the first land strike on Venezuelan soil.
There was a major explosion in the dock area where they load the boats up with drugs. They load the boats up with drugs, so we hit all the boats, and now we hit the area. It's the implementation area. That's where they implement, and that is no longer around.
The president is capable of reaching a national security finding and directive that would encompass this kind of strike, but he should provide thorough briefing to the oversight committees, to the relevant members of Congress who are responsible for funding and authorizing such action, and he has not done so.
The Venezuelan regime has also reportedly detained 5 American citizens, a move that the regime has used in the past to increase its leverage when negotiating with the United States. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Nearly 7,000 Minnesota borrowers have been suspended over alleged fraud in the state's pandemic-era loan programs by the Small Business Administration. And the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services says they closed out 2025 finding over 12,000 cases of immigration fraud. NTD correspondent Jason Blair has more.
The Small Business Administration says nearly 7,000 borrowers in Minnesota have been suspended following an investigation. SBA Administrator Kelly Loeffler says the suspected fraudsters took out nearly 8,000 loans, totaling $400 million during the pandemic. Loeffler says the loans were from the Paycheck Protection Program and Economic Injury Disaster loans. She writes on X, after years, the American people will finally begin to see criminals who stole from law-abiding taxpayers held accountable. Loeffler tells Fox News that after looking into Minnesota, the SBA will be going state by state.
We are going to make sure, now that we understand the breadth and the depth and the method of these crimes, that we hold more states accountable.
The Paycheck Protection Program is designed to help small businesses pay up to 8 weeks of payroll, as well as mortgage interest, rent, and utilities. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program aims to help small businesses by supplying low-interest loans during a disaster. This move comes 10 days after the SBA announced a halt of $5.5 million in annual funding to Minnesota, quote, pending further review. White House Deputy Press Secretary Anna Kelly says that the SBA's action is part of the Trump administration's effort to crack down on waste, fraud, and abuse.
It's not just daycare centers. That's why the SBA is looking at these small business loans. You have CMS looking at Medicaid payments, Department of Labor looking at unemployment insurance. This is truly a whole of government effort.
And U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services posts stats from 2025 involving immigration fraud cases. The agency says it had 29,000 immigration fraud referrals. It investigated 19,300 cases and found fraud in 65% of them, or 12,545 cases. The agency writes on X, there is no room for immigration fraud under the president's leadership. Since January 20th, we've cracked down and will not allow fraudsters to take advantage of our lawful immigration system and stay in the U.S. And about 10 days ago in December, the USCIS reported that it issued 196,000 alien removal notices in 2025 and referred over 14,400 immigrants to ICE because of fraud, national security, and public safety concerns. An alien removal notice notifies an individual of the government's intent to deport them over alleged immigration violations and to appear in court. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
Federal authorities say they foiled an ISIS-inspired terror plot in North Carolina. According to the FBI, the 18-year-old suspect has been arrested. He's accused of plotting to carry out a deadly attack on New Year's Eve at a grocery store and fast food restaurant near Charlotte. 18-year-old Christian Sturtevant appeared in federal court on Friday. He is facing charges of attempting to provide material support to a foreign terrorist organization. Investigators say the suspect was planning to use knives and hammers to carry out the attack.
So Mr. Sturtevant started on the internet. He started reading ISIS material, started going to ISIS websites, making TikTok videos, and eventually reached out to what he thought was a member of ISIS. In reality, it was an undercover agent with NYPD in New York. He pledged his allegiance to ISIS with that undercover agent, and he disclosed his plans to, quote, do jihad soon. He then met a second undercover with the FBI, who he also thought was an ISIS participant, and he started to be very specific with his plans. He talked with that undercover agent, again, who he thought was ISIS. He talked about where he was planning to do this attack, which was at a grocery store and a fast food restaurant in Mint Hill, places that we go every day and don't think that we may be harmed. He talked about what means he would use to kill innocent people. He said he was going to wear a Kevlar vest and attack people with knives and hammers. And of course, he talked about when he was going to carry out this attack, which was New Year's Eve.
According to the Justice Department, a search of Sturtevant's residence turned up handwritten documents, one of which was titled New Year's Attack 2026. It allegedly described a goal of stabbing as many civilians as possible, with the total number of victims to be as high as 20 to 21. Sturtevant faces a maximum penalty of 20 years in federal prison if convicted. Coming up, big changes are coming to California in 2026. From AI labeling to a plastic bag ban, these new laws could affect everyday life in the state. Christina Corona takes a closer look when we come back. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. California is rolling out several new laws in 2026 that could affect what residents watch, buy, and eat. From streaming ad rules to caps on insulin copays, NTD's Christina Corona brings us highlights from the Golden State.
California is rolling out new laws in 2026. Streaming services like Netflix, YouTube, and Peacock will no longer be allowed to blast louder commercials. Under a new law, ads must now match the volume of the shows they interrupt starting July 1st. Large artificial intelligence companies will now be required to provide tools to help users identify AI-generated content and allow creators to label AI-created images, videos, and audio. California renters will soon have have added protections. Landlords will be required to provide and maintain working stoves and refrigerators in most types of residential and rental properties. Electric bike rules are tightening too. Riders must use rear red lights or reflectors at all times, and minors cited for helmet violations can complete an online safety course from the California Highway Patrol. Other changes include a statewide ban on cat declawing, stricter data breach notification timelines, and a requirement for full refunds from food delivery apps for missing or incorrect orders. Insulin copays will also be capped at $35, and California's minimum wage will rise to $16.90 an hour. A new law will also require most tortillas and corn masa products sold in the state to include folic acid, a vitamin linked to infant health. California is also expanding its plastic bag ban. Retailers will no longer be allowed to sell any plastic carry-out bags, including the thicker bags that were previously marketed as reusable. Some stores may offer recycled paper bags for a small fee. Some of these laws already went into effect on January 1st. Christina Corona, NTD News.
The beginning of a new year is a time for hope, reflection, and gratitude. As we enter 2026, NTD's Sam Wong was out on the National Mall in D.C. to talk with people about their New Year's resolutions. Here's a look.
What are some of your New Year's resolutions, starting with you?
Better choices in the new year.
Better choices in what way?
In all the ways. Live your best life.
Go on the trip.
Yep. Take the trips.
Where are you guys going?
Wherever opportunities arise.
My resolution is simply to pay more attention to myself and self-care. I want to feel the best I can feel and be as happy as I can and live the best life I can live.
I'd like to hopefully save up enough money to buy a house. I think it's a solid thing.
Mine is to learn how to play the piano. I used to play when I was younger, but then I quit, so I want to learn again.
What made you want to get back into it?
My sister and my mom play, so it's very beautiful.
I'm gonna say my top 3: make my wife more happier this year, become a better businessman, and work on my relationship with God.
I feel like I have to match his making me happy, so I'm going to make him happy. That's certainly what I love to do. And I do love the Lord, so I do want to be more involved in reading the Word and, paying attention, actually. Focus.
Yeah, not falling asleep in church. But go ahead, man. Go ahead. I ain't going to interrupt you. You're doing good.
Anything to feel thankful for in the past year? Anything to reflect on?
Oh my goodness. We were both in horrible accidents, like head-on collisions where we could have literally died this past year. So I am just thankful for life and for our children. We have 6 of them and 2 brand new grandbabies that were both born on December 8th. So we're very grateful.
I'm grateful that we went to New York City and that was really fun.
We lost someone very dear to us, a friend that we've known for many, many years, and she was like a sister to us, and it's just so important to pay attention to those friends, love those friends, respect those friends, spend as much time as you can with those friends, because you never know when they aren't going to be here anymore.
For my family, my mom and dad, because they love me and they take care of me.
Absolutely. You got any New Year's resolutions for yourself?
Well, I like to take them when I have enough money when I'm 18 to go see a firework in a parade.
Coming up, does the Make America Healthy Again lifestyle bring health benefits? A groundbreaking first-hand investigation into this has some shocking, irrefutable findings. We hear from the man who tried it after the break. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. If weight loss and healthy living are on your resolutions list for the new year, you won't want to miss this. The Make America Healthy Again movement, inspired by Health Secretary RFK Jr., is all about reducing inflammation, cutting out processed food, and getting moving. But how effective is it? A reporter on This Beat wholeheartedly gave it a shot and lost 65 pounds as a result. Jeff Louderback from the Epoch Times joined NTD's Kevin Hogan to share his story.
Hi, Jeff. You're the reporter and the story. You've had many conversations with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and you knew what this MAHA method was, but you said you still weren't ready to put it into action. Then you stepped on that scale. What was going through your mind at that point, and how did you decide to go all in?
Well, I started covering the RFK Jr. presidential campaign for the Epoch Times from the beginning. I think that was April 2023. And much of my adult life, I'm in my mid-50s now, much of my adult life, I'd been in good shape. I'm a little over 6'4". I'd been around where I am now between 210 and 215 much of my life until about 2019. I just fell into some bad habits, and it snowballs. When you lose momentum, it can snowball. And literally, I like to say that I ballooned up to 278, and I didn't realize it. When you're tall, a lot of times you can't really tell what you weigh, or you can't really tell when you're immersed in your life and you're not focused on healthy habits. You don't really know that what you weigh, and you can't really tell how out of shape you are. I'm looking at those photos. That photo on the left, I was covering Hurricane Helene in Western North Carolina for the Epoch Times, and I didn't realize it until April 2023, and then RFK Jr. decided to leave the race August 23rd of 2024, and that's when the term MAHA was built. It wasn't until I shifted to the MAHA, covering the MAHA movement. It was around probably early May, I stepped on the scale. I lived down here in Southern Ohio at a local gym, stepped on the scale, and it said 278. And I was like, wow, I just had never weighed that much in my life. I knew I wasn't in great shape. I knew I was in bad habits and wasn't doing what I should. I knew what I should be doing, but wasn't doing it. And then, of course, when you're traveling around the country covering RFK Jr., you hear about sourcing foods, knowing where your foods come from, and chemicals in foods. And of course, RFK Jr. himself, the guy's 71 years old, and he's in better physical shape than most people in their 20s and 30s. So I wasn't living the lifestyle, but it kicked in May, and I wrote in the story on the Epoch Times. It had a lot to do with my faith, because I'm a Christ follower, and I've really renewed my faith over the last year. And part of being a Christ follower is taking care of the body God's given you. And I wasn't doing that. And across the board with my faith and my MAHA passion, it caused me to take action.
So, well, I mean, Jeff, you look different. Really, we've spoken many times. You've done a lot of great political reporting, and I'm sure other reports. This one is a really great, deep investigative piece that you've put together here. Now, overall, was it hard to adopt the MAHA lifestyle? And if so, was there one specific part that was the hardest?
Well, another thing I wrote is we live in a society where there's all sorts of quick fixes, like you have Ozempic and the other weight loss drugs. You have all these pills that promise you take this pill, you don't have to change your lifestyle, you're going to get shredded and lose weight. But there's no such thing. The bottom line is what the MAHA movement, part of it is all about: whole foods, herbs, knowing where your food comes from, knowing how it's raised, locally sourcing foods instead of getting them from the grocery store, because I'm a journalist. I can't pronounce or spell half the ingredients in most foods on the grocery store shelves. And it's changing a mindset. I also, in that article, used I'm a sports fan, as you can see in the background. Like in Major League Baseball, when the Red Sox are on a losing streak, they can't stop it until they win one game. And then you can't start building momentum until you get a second or third win in a row, and then you have a streak going. That's really applies to wellness, because you're not going to lose the weight overnight. I say give yourself a season, which is 3 months. Start incorporating those habits, whole foods and herbs, fully eliminating processed foods. That's what I did. And if you don't feel you can do that, at least dramatically reduce it. Minimize sugar. And of course, exercise is part of that. But I did it mostly I'm back to high intensity interval training exercises and more weight training. But from May to November, when I lost the 65 pounds and now I'm maintaining it, the 210 to 215 weight range, it was all about eliminating the whole foods and herbs. Focusing on whole foods and herbs, eliminating processed foods and knowing where my food comes from and doing a lot of walking and hiking. That photo on the right there was taken at a nature preserve down here in Southern Ohio. That's important. So you can't out-train a bad diet, but you can, if you focus on pro-MAHA principles, you can get to where you want to be.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, that's about 10 pounds a month or just over that. I mean, congratulations. So what advice do you have for people that are considering a change in diet?
Well, I don't like the word diet. That implies something short-term. It's a lifestyle. It's something sustainable. A diet isn't sustainable, but a lifestyle is long-term sustainable. And it's understanding that, again, and you could do it, I live down here in Amish country in Southern Ohio in the Appalachian foothills. I had lived in cities and suburbs all my life until 2 years ago. And I'm growing microgreens. I'm learning how to use the tower garden and grow herbs myself. But what I don't grow, I source it down here from local farmers, whether it's meat, eggs, produce, herbs. So it's understanding not only where you get what you eat, but where you get it from. And because it's important, you can even get produce in the grocery store and meat in the grocery store, but it's not healthy for you because of chemicals in it. So it's understanding the local sourcing. That's pretty much what I like to say, to focus on that.
Growing it yourself. I mean, what's more local than that? Now, okay, 2 questions. One, just briefly, do you do the microgreens in the trays or do you do them in the jars? And then also, you mentioned your faith, herbs, and knowing your food and intermittent fasting. Tell us about this holistic approach and how it all works together.
As far as the microgreens, I got to restart that this winter because I harvested microgreens it was about 2 months ago, the last of my microgreens, and I haven't restarted it, but that's for the winter. I'm doing that and restarting my tower garden where I could grow vegetables and herbs inside, because down here it's supposed to be 1 degree on Sunday down here, so obviously not conducive for outdoor growing. As far as the faith, it all goes hand in hand, I think. I think faith and sustainable living go hand in hand. God has given us all we need to heal ourselves and to have what we need. So there's plenty of farmers now. I'm actually, I took a break to do this interview. I'm finishing a story on regenerative farmers' reaction to the news a couple days ago that the USDA is allocating $700 million for regenerative farming. So it's knowing how your food is raised, where you get it from, and understanding that we have what we need to heal ourselves and to keep ourselves healthy. It's not, the answer isn't a pill. The answer isn't over-the-counter medication to heal. I firmly believe in the holistic approach and understanding what God has given us.
You can only imagine that these big pharma companies that push out Ozempic and whatever else, these obesity pills, they probably don't like the MAHA movement like all that much, you can imagine. Now back to you. Of course, losing 65 pounds has many health benefits, probably much easier on the joints, better blood pressure, I'm sure. How do you feel?
Well, again, this is not something new to me because I had been in good shape, the shape I like to be in back as late as probably like 2019, 2020. I just got out of bad habits. And it's about the mindset. When you're in the right mindset, you accomplish goals and you feel great. Like that photo right there on the left, I wasn't in the right mindset. I was, when you're traveling too, as you know, being in the media, when you're on the road, I was on the road all 28 states covering RFK Jr. And right there was Hurricane Helene, Western North Carolina. When you're on deadline, it's easy to stop at a fast food place and it's easy to eat poorly. And it's all about being in the right mindset. And faith has a lot to do with that because it's sustainable when you know your purpose. And I know my purpose now with my renewed faith. And then I know how good it feels good to feel good. I've written about that on social media. And because I'm in the right mindset and have the right purpose, it's sustainable.
Now, Jeff, candidly, did your faith help you with the diet, or did your diet help improve your faith, or both?
I think it was both, but I'm a firm believer. I've been a Christ follower or believer my whole life, but it's different. It's different being a Christ believer and a Christ follower. So when you're a follower, you're leading, you're abiding by biblical principles and values, and really biblical principles and values go hand in hand with Make America Healthy Again. So, I mean, that's important. So that's what's inspired me to get it started and to keep my momentum, because you need willpower and discipline, especially when you're doing a fast, because fasting has a lot of benefits beyond. Really, fasting is not about weight loss and fat loss. It's about regenerating cells and generating ketones, so among others. So willpower and discipline for me come from God, not myself.
So fascinating, Jeff. You know, I used to wrestle in high school and we cut weight. I don't recommend it, but that is hard. So I can imagine that, you know, you really stuck to it. That's good on you. Now, from your firsthand perspective, do you believe that if a large portion of Americans took up the MAHA way of life, that it could go a long way in solving the chronic disease epidemic in this country?
Yeah, I think that's common sense, really, removing chemicals from food, knowing where your food comes from, eliminating processed foods, because there's nothing. I had to laugh because I saw, I think today or yesterday, that Oreos are no longer going to have sugar in them, or there's going to be a non-sugar version. But still, that's, as I think it was Dr. Mark Hyman pointed out, that's still ultra-processed food, because artificial sweeteners aren't good for you. So, again, you know, if you exercise and you focus on herbs and whole foods and minimize sugar, good things are going to happen.
Incredible. Well, Jeff Louderback, thank you for coming on and sharing your firsthand experience with the MAHA lifestyle with us.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, 2025 brought us a number of great stories in sports. So what's in store for 2026? Dave Martin takes a look ahead when we come back. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. The past year in sports featured a number of unforgettable moments, from Shohei Ohtani's postseason heroics to the possible end of the Chiefs' NFL dynasty, and maybe a new one starting in the NBA. The year saw some incredible highs, but what about 2026? NTD's Dave Martin takes a look ahead.
2026 has already started off with a bang in college football, with defending champion Ohio State getting knocked out of the playoffs by Miami. The 10th-seeded Hurricanes, meanwhile, need 2 more wins to add an improbable championship to their already crowded trophy room. Over in the pros, though, the playoff picture will have a new look, with the Chiefs out of the postseason for the first time in a decade. What happens next is anyone's guess. Will the Eagles repeat as champions, or will teams like the Bills and 49ers, who were repeatedly denied by the Chiefs, finally break through? And while the NFL is sorting out their champion, the Winter Olympics will be in full swing. This year's games will feature a number of thrilling storylines. Can 41-year-old Lindsey Vonn become the oldest to win gold? Will Michaela Schifrin add to her medal collection? And for the first time in a dozen years, the hockey competition will feature NHL stars as the U.S. and Canada look to renew their albeit one-sided rivalry. On the hardwood, March Madness is less than 3 months away, with Florida looking to repeat as champions. The always entertaining event features buzzer beaters and Cinderella upsets, while spawning bracket competitions in offices all across the country. But while the college game rarely sees repeat winners, the Oklahoma City Thunder look primed to extend their dynasty in the pros. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and company are off to the best start in the league, but may have trouble with the Spurs if they want to repeat as champions. Meanwhile, this may be the final season for Lakers star LeBron James, who turned 41 on Tuesday. And speaking of aging legends, Tiger Woods, who shares the same birthday as James, just turned 50, making him eligible for golf's senior circuit, the PGA Tour Champions. But though Woods is at the half-century mark, another major title isn't totally out of the question, especially after Phil Mickelson turned the trick in 2021, just a month shy of age 51. But while Woods is hoping for a return to the course next spring, the soccer world will be gearing up for the World Cup and waiting for word from Lionel Messi over whether he'll suit up for defending champion Argentina. And finally, on the baseball diamond, Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers have three-peating on their minds for 2026. The game's first $700 million player has delivered so far for LA, with 2 World Series titles, not to mention 2 MVP awards since signing there 2 off-seasons ago. If the Dodgers are going to get a third in 2026, though, Ohtani may have to win a Cy Young as well. This is Dave Martin for NTD News.
And that's all for today's news. For on-the-clock coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Good night.